Well, hello and greetings from Marquette, Michigan. This is Bob the Science Guy, and this is episode 6 of Flat Earth Can't Science. We have a special treat today. We've got Flat Reality Earth Explorers and their hit video, Observation Across Monterey Bay, California, that's been making the rounds on Jeranism and all the Flat Earth sites. Now, in my experience with Flat Earth scientists, these guys are the exception. They had a very well documented experiment. They were very responsive to questions about their experiment. And what's more, they captured a very interesting phenomenon. I'm going to start off with one possible source of problems that they have, but I think this is going to require another video as I'd like to explore a couple of other things. But before we get started, I want to give them another well done, gentlemen and lady. And thank you very much for being so responsive to requests for additional information. That is the way science should be. Now there is one minor source of confusion here. I've seen a couple of versions of this video and they seem to have some different mileage. Now because of this, I'm going to use the longest one that I heard, which was 15.23 miles. That was actually one of the longer ones, but I've confirmed the elevation of the observation at 25 feet and the elevation of the mirror on the beach at 15 feet. It should be noted that the tide was clearly going out. I do not know what date this was done, nor the time, which would allow me to actually calculate the status of the tide. I don't have the air temperature, nor do I have the water temperature. Okay, so here's the photograph that they produced and the data for the photo. Just to the left of the center and the horizon, you see a signal mirror that looks like it was about 18 inches by 3 feet in diameter and was between 7 and 15 feet above mean sea level as the tide was going out. In the background, you can see the Moss Landing power plant. Those are the twin 500-foot stacks there. Here's the interesting part. Here's the advanced curve calculator. We plug in the data and we find that some 40 feet should be hidden from that distance, yet we can see the mirror clearly. As I noted, I've gone over all of this in Google Earth, also talked to the people that conducted the experiment. I'm comfortable with their distances and their elevation. Now here's the first problem that we run into, and this is a common problem in the flat earth community. That problem is clearly understanding who has the burden of proof in these experiments. The globe is the current model of our Earth. The burden of proof is on the challenger, which is the flat Earth. This experiment also falls into that trap. I've seen many announcements that this busts the globe throughout the internet, and that's simply not going to be the case, as we shall see. Now, with any experiment or hypothesis, the first thing that you have to do is you have to try and disprove it. You don't start your hypothesis with a conclusion. You start your hypothesis by saying, did I observe something that cannot happen on a globe Earth? Next, you answer one of the obvious questions. Can this occur on a flat Earth? And finally, you have to be able to show that this observation not only is reproducible at this location, it can be applied to similar situations in other locations. So let's take these questions one at a time. The first one is, can this occur on a globe Earth? Many of us are familiar with this photograph of the Chicago skyline from a beach in Michigan 59 miles away. This is a known and confirmed superior mirage. Examples of how you can tell it's a superior mirage is that it is not present every day. This is only present in specific weather conditions, specifically warm spring days with calm, cool water creating a temperature inversion. Second, if you look on the left side of the photograph, you will see the Willis Towers, or as us old-timers call it, the Sears Tower. Notice how stretched and distorted the top part of that tower is compared to the actual Chicago skyline below. And finally, in the original images, you will see shimmering, again suggesting a mirage. As an aside, I grew up about 40 miles from where this photograph was taken, and come this spring, I'm going to go out and take a few photographs of myself, and I'm going to see if I can catch this with and without the skyline. Now, based on careful examination of these photographs and a personal judgment call after some measurements, I'm going to say the top 600 feet of the skyline is visible. We have about 850 feet below the horizon. Now, on a normal day with normal atmospheric refraction and no temperature inversion, I've plugged the data in here and we can see probably about the top 60 feet of that tower from the Lake Michigan shore. That's roughly 1/10 of a degree of angular height. I'm going to just make the call and say we've got to figure out a way to get another 600 feet of that skyline visible. Now, at the distance of 59 miles, the height of the building and the height of the observation of 40 feet is not a variable here. The only thing that we can change is the index of refraction for the atmosphere. You can review the numbers here, but as you see, we can achieve this at a refraction index of 0.5077. I want to go over the burden of proof one more time. The sphere is the current model. There is overwhelming evidence that the Earth is a globe. The flat Earth is coming in as the challenger and has the burden of proof. I think that this next point is very important. A lot of people that are flat Earth enthusiasts spend an inordinate amount of time trying to disprove the globe. The problem is even if we make it a condition of the experiment that the Earth is not a globe, that does not prove the Earth is flat. You have to do that. And then you have to show that everything the globe can predict, the flat Earth can do as well. So once again, your first step is to prove that this cannot happen on a globe. Your second step is to show that it only can happen on a flat Earth. And your third step is to show that this can happen not just in this situation, but in all similar situations and on a consistent basis. Even by passing all of those tests, all you have done is generated an interesting observation and a solid piece of evidence. You by no means have disproven the globe. This is just one observation that you've made, and you haven't looked at time zones or tides or seasons or any of the other things that the globe explains very well. Okay, so back to our evidence from this observation, which is this photograph right here. Going back to our first question, can this occur on a spherical Earth? We'll apply the curve calculator using the refraction noted in the Chicago picture, and we can clearly see that yes, it can. Given the stated observation height and the stated height of the mirror and the distance between the two, with the refraction from that Chicago picture, we can reproduce this on a sphere. That ends the challenge right there. That reduces this observation to one of an interesting observation that requires further explanation, but it is not a flat Earth proof. In further confirmation, we're going to have a look at the power plant stacks. Fact number one is that we can see the base of the smokestack from this stated observation point. The base of the stack is at 33 feet MSL. We can see considerably below it. Using the stated observation height and the distance of 14.5 miles, we can plug that into the curve calculator and find out that we should be able to see 20 feet below the base of that stack. Not only can we see that low, we can see the mirror on the beach, which is at a corresponding height. Without regard to the experimenters being able to calculate this refraction, the visual evidence suggests that that is the level of refraction we are looking at. Now, two other factors that we can look at, but we do not have the information for at this time and will save for a later video, include the possibility of an additional 7 feet of observation height due to low tide and the divergence of the light beam from the mirror. So overall, ladies and gents, you're going to get a B for this experiment. You lost a few points because you went looking for a flat Earth experiment rather than to find an observation that could not be adequately explained on a sphere after diligent effort. I mean, seriously, you had the Chicago mirage right in your video. Why didn't you look into that, find out what refraction was required to do that, and apply it to your situation? You see, the problem is the Earth has overwhelming evidence that it is a sphere. It is much more likely you're going to have a freak observation on a sphere than you're going to have a normal observation on a flat Earth. Now that said, I still have some questions about this observation. I find it very interesting and I want to dig into it further.
Is there no one else? Is there no one else?